We live by faith, Christians anyway. So when we put out the word, we don't know what God planned for somebody else who's listening. So it's all about obeying the word, just like Abraham. He just obeyed the word. He didn't question it, he just got to moving. So that's some biggest kind of a big message out of this, that's the obey, and of course make sure it's God too. Sometimes we thinking it be most time it be us. Me sometimes when it spelled fair, it was us. We didn't wait for God's word. That what got King Saul out of the will of God, because he went on what himself and sometimes what other people say. How y'all doing out there again? Freddie calls the chicken in. Hope everything going well with everybody as always. Everybody on the up and up. Today, I kind of want to talk about God providing for us, and sometimes, the way God's plans is a whole lot totally different from what we think it should be. And a lot of time we can't. I know we sometimes hear the saying, well, it ain't like certain things. We be trying to do things. Saying whether you ain't got something to go with something, or like cooking, where we had to use this brand, even though it ain't gonna taste good. We gonna make it work. We have that saying on making things work. But, it just don't always turn out as good as, say, like, even with cooking, certain sugars and certain ingredients, it just don't taste the same or as good. I hope you kind of understand it from that's point of view. But we have a tendency, like, we going to make it work, but with God, and his plans, man can't make it work. It's only gonna work God's way, and if it's not God's way, it's not gonna work out as good. This what I'm gonna read today is kind of gonna be about Abraham. With most people, especially church people, call him the father of faith. But it came to a point, God had promised him a son, but but him and his wife came up with an idea, to help God out or try to help God out, but we can't do that, and God's plan, if we wait on it, it's gonna work out the way it should. You ain't gonna have no sorrows with it. That their plan of having a son, it worked to an extent. Yes, did have a son. If you got your Bible, kind of turn to the 22nd chapter, because that's where I'm gonna be starting. But anyway, in the previous chapter, God's plan had to come into play, and God's plan is a lot higher than what we can try to make up or try to figure out or try to do God's job. We can't do God's job. His job is gonna work like as it should. And always the better plan. Man try to do a whole lot of different things instead of what God have put in place, and have a whole lot of sorrows with it. But anyway, but yeah, it got to a point where they can stand, the child that, that's Abraham had from the bondwoman of Sarah. It got to a point they can really be in the same house. I'm kind of thinking the bondwoman was a lot younger than Sarah. Sarah was an old woman having a son, but that was God's plan, the best plan. And, but anyway, like I said, with God, we can't try to make something work. We just have to wait on the Lord, because that's the better plan. And also another point of Abraham's faith in God, he didn't put nothing above God. He trusted God. And in this story, it's an old story. I know y'all heard it before. I'm gonna maybe skip a little bit, thinking about God. He's gonna always provide. And things like that. That's what this little story gonna be about. So, if you got your Bible, you may be already that's Genesis the 22nd chapter, and I'm gonna try not to be long. Genesis the 22nd chapter, first verse. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here am I. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. So it begins, in Genesis talking about the test. God doesn't tempt us, with bad things, but in this instance, like I say, he was just testing him, just to see where his heart at, because like I say, he had been waiting for that son that God told him about, not the one, he tried to make it work, even though he did have Ishmael, but this were all the promises were going to come through Isaac. So, like I say, another thing, Abraham didn't question God. We have a lot of questions, that includes me too, about certain things. You like, why? God's kind of clear when he talks to you. He's very clear, but just us sometimes and not saying okay, and having the faith in what God say to do sometimes, because sometimes God say things you just, no, that can't be God. No, that can't be God. You know how we are. That can't be God, but it's when you pick up your Bible and you read, and, especially I know when I'll be reading the Bible, sometimes a word will come to me, I'm like, It is off the, as we would say, off the wall, but, after a while, God will sometime even bring it back again. I often think about the story how God really meeting with Samuel. Samuel was one of the prophets that none of his words fell to the ground. In the beginning, he met him as a child. Even me, in this walk, I gave the Lord my life when I was in my teenage years, my later teenage years. Of course, you be around church for a while, but until you really have an experience with the Lord, you can be around it, but it don't have really no effect. You got to have something happen in your life where that's God. It had to be God. So, but yeah, he had talked to Samuel 3 times, but thank God goodness, he had somebody who has something still in him to tell him what to do. So it's good to have people guiding, that are over you in the Lord to, they hear from God differently and probably had a relationship with God a longer time than you, so, to lead you, and to okay the calling, you need to listen to the Lord, like that's all I do, I try to read the word and hopefully God talks to you on something, that's all the thing about witnessing, that God, whatever comes out of my word, if it's the word, God can talk to somebody else. And, we supposed to spread the gospel, this word to other people, We don't know what God planned for nobody, really. We we live by faith, Christians anyway. So when we put out the word, we don't know what God planned for somebody else who's listening. So it's all about obeying the word, just like Abraham. He just obeyed the word. He didn't question it, he just got to moving. So that's some biggest kind of a big message out of this, that's the obey, and of course make sure it's God too. Sometimes we thinking most time it be us. Me sometimes when it spelled fair, it was us. We didn't wait for God's word. That what got King Saul out of the will of God, because he went on what himself and sometimes what other people say. But anyway, I'm going everywhere. But I hope you get to kind of understand. Abraham obeyed the Lord. And when all these questions, he did what he said. And like I said, God's going. He knows your heart, so we can't put nothing above him. So he's gonna. That's why it's not good, always to say I thank God. Put God first in everything. I thank God for what I have, and then don't put none of yourself, because you can't do nothing without God. So that's kind of the way I try to live my life. Always keep God first and say, God did this, God did that, and don't take none of God's glory, because, like I say, He searches out the heart, so He gonna know what's in His place, and He ain't gonna have nothing in His place. So, but anyway, like I say in the beginning, this Abraham doing exactly what God say, and the thing about it, he didn't even give a clear. He didn't tell him where to go. He told him, I'm going to tell you. So while he was going, God told him the place. So that's something to think about. So but that's how Abraham was. He just believed God that way. And let me see if I'm going to skip a little bit. Okay, I'll go ahead and just read it. Then on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. So that's what Abraham did. Once God gave him the place after that, on that third day of the journey, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off, and he told his young men, that people that came with him, to stay there. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. So that's something else. Some just, well, put it this way, Abraham followed through with the instruction he got from God. And sometimes that's hard to do. I know us as Christians, it's hard for us sometimes to wait on the Lord. Those scriptures, they mean something. It's waiting, with sometimes, like I said, in the beginning, we want to try to help God or make it work, but you can't really do that. You know, and if it's something ain't working, you're gonna know it. But sometimes we tend to hang on to stuff and try to keep doing things. But we can see the God and allow certain things to kind of lean to you that it ain't in His will, and you can't make it work. But some people try to make it work, and it is like I said, if it's not in God's plan, no matter how long you try to do something, you can't make it work. You know, it's just not gonna work as it. You're gonna have more time in a struggle. Like I said, like Abraham they tried to help God out, but like I say, in the end, it just wouldn't work. You know, their plan just ain't gonna work. You know, and like I said, they had to split. The bondwoman or Hagar couldn't stay in the same household with Sarah and the son of the promise. So you just, I don't care how long, what you think is not, if it's not God's plan, it's just not going to work. You know, you can't make it work. But like I say, when God tell you something, it's good to know there's follow through like Abraham. He didn't ask no questions. He just did what the Lord said. He was obedient. And, you know, as this, we also know, you know, obedience is better than sacrifice. So, you know, and the only big thing, you know, we have that this is in the Bible too, you know, sacrifice of praise. That's about the only sacrifice you could do. You could do that'll help you. I guess we can do is, like I say, the sacrifice of praise, praising God. Because, like I say, through everything, through all, you know, all our help gonna come through the Lord. So let me not get too ahead of myself. 10th verse. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh. And it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. In other words, everybody know what Jehovah Jireh is. The Lord will provide. And and the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in the multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in thy seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So I'm gonna stop it there. But that's one of the great stories, you know. You can get a lot out of it. But the biggest thing I understand, you know, God had promised Abraham that son, you know, Isaac, even though Ishmael was a blessing, he was blessed too. But like I say, that was like I say, he tried to make it work. You know, they think that you can try to help God. You're nobody to help God, you know, and you can do things on your own, but you're not going to have, if it's not in God's plan, it's not going to how can I say this? You're not gonna get the best result. You know, just like certain ingredients in cooking, you know, you don't do things a certain way or, you know, try to cut corners or be cheap, you know, it ain't gonna just turn out just right. You know, it ain't gonna have that taste of that way that cake or a food should turn out because you use something instead of that. Okay, of course some people might say sometimes it may be better. Yeah. Okay, you can have that one. You know, I ain't gonna go against you on that, but sometimes, you know, you follow an old recipe, you know, just like with wine, you know, it gotta sit for a while, you know, and to be good is to be a solid taste, you know, and you know, sometimes that wine costs a little bit more than just brand new wine, you know, but also I could go into some old tales in the Bible, you know, you can't put a new piece onto an old cloth without it taking away from it or causing that. I think the Bible say tear, you know, or cause a different look. It can't work. You know, that's us trying to do God's work. It's not gonna work. His plan is too high and too awesome to, you know, for us, our little minds to even touch God. So the biggest thing I want you to know, you know, you can't make nothing work. You know how God got it, God's plan. You know, it's untouchable. You know, when God provide, you know, it get blessings on blessings, multiplying on multiplying. God did exactly what, you know, what the last few verses I read to you. He did exactly what he said he was gonna do. You know, through Isaac, through Isaac, not Ishmael. So I hope you got some out of this. I gotta try to figure out what I'm gonna make this video. You know, I had in mind, you know, that really kind of talk about, you know, Abraham's obedience, because he was just like, when God spoke, here am I, no talking. You know, that's what I get out of that. You know, he said, here am I. He like, okay, Lord. You know, I'm gonna tell you where to stop at. That's when, you know, the third day he told him where the sacrifice him at. You know, everything he just was obedient to God. That's stuff I keep with me when I hear about what they call Father Abraham, but you know, Abraham's faith to me. And if you obey God and you just listen to him and trust him and trying to make things fit things to your liking. You can't fit things to your liking. You know, it got to be not to get the greater blessing out of that. Put it that way. If you wait on the Lord, you know, God's blessing, you know, you can't get, but you gonna get the full magnitude of what God has for you versus you trying to do something on your own. So anyway, I'm at 23 minutes according to this clock, and you know, I'm short-winded. You know, I don't want nobody, you know, I can talk a whole lot about seeing people, boy. Certain people get up there, especially growing up, get up there, boy. Some folks automatically take their seat and be about to sleep and everything. So I don't want that to happen for me. I try to get straight to the point. But anyway, obey God, number one. If God says something, he gonna do it. Two, don't try to think you can do God's work. It ain't gonna work. You gotta wait on him. If you try to, you're gonna end up, it's gonna be a hurt to you, because like I say, when Abraham could have both of his sons with him in the same household, that made him grieve. That grieved him to his core. You know, that's what he wanted, but like I said, that Sarah didn't want that. You know, it became an issue. So like I said, you won't be grieved. you know, if you do what God say, and the third thing, God's gonna follow through for what He said. You know, God made that promise to him, and God's gonna do exactly what He said He's gonna do. But it's gonna be in His time, and we can't rush God. You know, I hope them the three biggest lessons I got, you know, out of this story. You know, with the story of Abraham, you know, you obey him. Like I said, you can't make it work. this is you can't make it work. You know, and like I say, you know, just obey God and be listening for His voice, and don't put none of yourself in it, because it ain't gonna work as it should. You're not gonna get the blessing as it should. You know, just wait on the Lord. And I end on that note. Y'all be safe, and I'll see you on the next go round.